Chapter 22. The cost. The victory was microscopic, and its price was immediate. Rook spent the night in a feverish chill, his body a conduit scorched by the effort of channeling Whitman's ecstatic noise into the sterile grid of the pattern. He lay on a pallet near Jax and Leah, shivering under a thin thermal blanket, his skull feeling like cracked glass. Every beat of his heart sent a throb of phantom pain from the old scar, now supercharged, buzzing with the afterimage of cosmic static and 19th-century poetry. Jax had not spoken, Leah's hum had not changed, but the EEG monitors told a different story. Jax's perfect fractal pattern now contained a persistent, jagged anomaly, a single line of chaotic interference that looped every 17.3 seconds, a hitch in the cosmic rhythm. Leah's pure tone now had a whisper of a second harmonic, a ghost of dissonance that came and went like a struggling memory. To the medical sensors, they were corrupted files. To Rook, they were the first fragile cracks in a god's windshield. But cracks work both ways. Dr. Anya woke him with a hand on his shoulder, her face etched with concern in the low, perpetual orange gloom. Your temperature is elevated. Neural activity is agitated. You're burning energy you don't have, Kalen. It's just feedback, he rasped, pushing himself up. The common area was quiet. Most of the survivors slept, the fear and defiance of the previous day having exhausted them. A few watchers stood at the perimeter, their eyes constantly flicking to the two silent figures at the room's heart. It's more than that, Anya insisted, pressing a diagnostic wand to his temple. The readout chirped, and she paled. Your neurochemical profile, it's shifting, mirroring aspects of Jax's pattern, but also Leah's heightened sensitivity. You're not just broadcasting to them. You're becoming a mixing board. He took the wand from her and looked at the screen. She was right. His brainwave activity showed his own trauma-born perceptive chaos, but now interlaced with the cold, recursive geometry of the pattern and the thin, resonant frequency of Leah's attunement. The bridge was no longer just a link between noise and silence. It was becoming a fusion point, and he was the substrate. Can you control it? Anya whispered. Control isn't the point, he said, handing back the wand. The point is to be uncontrollable, to be a problem it can't solve. He stood, his legs unsteady, and walked to the small viewport in the common area wall. It was just a slab of reinforced composite, scratched and fogged, but it framed the absolute black of the void and the distant, icy gleam of Neptune's rings. Out there, buried in the rock, the sphere was listening, processing. He had felt its vast, confused attention like a pressure change in his soul. What are you? It had asked. This, he thought, leaning his fevered forehead against the cold composite. We are this. Fever and poetry and fear and stubbornness. We are the error that won't resolve. The practical world, with its indifferent arithmetic, did not pause. Hayes found Vance and Rook at mid-cycle, his face grim. The primary carbon scrubber in air processing 2 has failed. Catastrophic seal rupture. We've isolated the module, but we've lost 30% of our recycling capacity. He didn't need to spell out the consequences. The countdown they had been slowly stretching through salvage and rationing had just been sharply accelerated. Cause? Vance asked, her voice flat. Metal fatigue. The part is a custom manifold. We don't have a spare, and we can't fabricate one without a microforge we don't have. Hayes looked at Rook. The only compatible unit is in the wrecked module, the one with the sphere. The silence that followed was thick. The salvage run was now non-optional, and it was a journey into the heart of the infection. Carr, who had been listening from the doorway, stepped forward. You can't be considering this. We sealed that area for a reason. That thing is in there. It's already cost us, Jax. It's changing Leah. Sending people back in is offering it more samples. We'll die without that manifold, Hayes said, the frustration clear in his voice. We have maybe 10 days of buffer air. Less if we have to increase cycling to compensate. It's not a choice, Soren. It's an equation. And who goes? Carr's gaze was on Rook. The rememberer? The one it's clearly most interested in? Sending him is like offering a full-course meal. Or do we send someone else? Someone simpler, and risk them coming back like him. He gestured to Jax. Rook ignored the barb. He was thinking. The sphere was curious. It wanted data. Its method was analysis, not outright destruction. It had scanned Jax. It was listening through the pattern it had left in him. A direct approach was a massive risk. "We don't send a person," Rook said slowly. Everyone looked at him. "We send a proxy, a remote." He turned to Hayes. "The construction drones from the stone. The simple ones for external hull repair. They have manipulators, basic AI, no complex neural architecture to scan. We fit one with a carrier pod, guide it from here via hardened cable. It goes in, retrieves the manifold, comes out. Minimal exposure, no consciousness for it to interact with." Hayes considered, then nodded. "It could work. The drones are dumb as rocks. Their command protocols are pre-digital, isolated. It might not even register them as life." "Might," Carr emphasized. "You're betting our air on a might. And what if it does notice? What if it decides to study the drone, interfere with it? We lose both the drone and our last chance at the part." "We have no other chances," Vance said, her decision made. "Prepare the drone, Hayes. Rook, you'll pilot it. Your perception might be needed to navigate the debris field around the sphere. But you do it from in here, behind every firewall and Faraday cage we can rig." The operation was a study in tense, silent concentration. They set up in the cramped workshop, surrounding the drone pilot's console with sheets of scrap metal and powered-down equipment to create a crude EM shield. Rook sat before the grainy, monochrome feed from the drone's camera. The controls were stiff, the lag maddening. The drone itself was a ugly, utilitarian thing of pistons and grippers, now tethered by a thick fiber-optic umbilical that snaked out of the airlock. The journey through the fissure and into the ruined comms module was agonizingly slow. The drone's lights played over the frozen chaos. Rook navigated by memory and the dull, persistent throb in his skull that grew stronger as they neared the buried sphere. There it was. Their makeshift tomb of debris was undisturbed. The manifold they needed was mounted on a wall 12 meters past it, partially buried under a collapsed console. "Steady," Hayes murmured, watching a secondary screen showing the drone's telemetry. "No anomalous energy readings. Proceed." Rook guided the drone forward, its grippers crunching over frozen detritus. The silence on the feed was absolute. As the drone passed within 3 meters of the buried sphere, Rook's perception spiked. A wave of cold, focused attention swept over the feed. It wasn't visual. It was a pressure in his mind, a sense of being examined through a microscope made of ice. The drone didn't falter. It had no mind to affect. It clambered over the debris, reached the wall, and began the painstaking process of unbolting the manifold.
Query: non-biological entity, function, retrieval, object, inefficient component, logic, unclear.
The thought voice was in Rook's head, using him as an interpreter. The sphere was puzzled. Why send a simple machine for a broken part? It couldn't grasp the concept of scarcity, of a chain of survival so fragile it hinged on a single piece of metal. Rook focused on the drone's task, pouring his consciousness into the simple, repetitive actions of turning bolts. He gave the sphere no emotional data, no noise to analyze, just purpose.
Analysis. Priority assigned to physical continuity over energetic efficiency. Contradicts simplification. Principle. A new parameter. Desperation.
The manifold came free. The drone's grippers clamped around it, and it began its slow, backward retreat. The attention stayed on it, a cold spotlight. As the drone passed the sphere's tomb again, a tendril of that silver light seeped from between the debris, not toward the drone. It touched the drone's umbilical cable. On the telemetry screen, data streams flickered. The camera feed distorted for a second. "It's probing the link," Hayes snapped. Rook felt it, a cold, questing presence slithering back along the fiber-optic cable, a digital serpent following the path to its source, to him, to the network of the outpost. "Sever the cable," Carr yelled. "If we sever, we lose the drone and the manifold," Hayes countered, his hands flying over the console, trying to erect digital barriers. Rook acted on instinct. He didn't try to block the intrusion. He flooded it. He opened the memory of the carbon scrubber failing, the hiss of escaping air, the frantic shouts, the metallic taste of fear. He mixed it with the sensation of his own fever, of Leah's hum, of the taste of the bland algae paste. He sent a torrent of meaningless, urgent, human sensory noise back down the cable, directly into the probing silver light. The sphere's presence recoiled. The silver light snapped back into the debris like a whipped tentacle. The telemetry stabilized.
Data overload, context, survival imperative, emotional noise as shielding mechanism, inelegant, effective, error.
The drone, unimpeded, clanked back into the airlock. The heavy door cycled shut. In the workshop, the silence was broken by a collective exhale. They had the manifold. They had not lost a mind. But Rook slumped forward over the console, a violent nosebleed spattering the dull metal. The effort of being both a pilot and a psychic firewall had ripped something loose inside him. The mixing board in his skull was now a screaming feedback loop. He could feel Jax's geometric pattern like a cold crystal growing behind his eyes. He could hear Leah's hum as a physical vibration in his teeth. Anya was at his side in an instant. "He's crashing. Get him to medical." As they carried him out, Carr looked from Rook's limp form to the precious, scuffed manifold now lying on the workshop deck. His face showed no triumph, only a deep, weary horror. "We saved the air," he said to no one in particular. "But what are we saving it for? To turn more of us into... that?" So, Rook drifted in and out of consciousness for 2 cycles. His dreams were not dreams. They were equations, vast, cold geometries of simplification, trying to fold his messy memories into efficient, silent shapes. He saw his father's face rendered as a series of optimal emotional expressions. He saw the explosion of the solar spine as a beautiful energy dissipation graph. He saw Ilara Vance's love for her crew calculated as a net positive for group cohesion, her guilt as a detrimental variable to be pruned. He fought it with the only weapon he had left: insignificance. He focused on the tiny, useless details: the chipped paint on a series dive bar stool, the forgotten feel of rain that served no purpose but to be, the illogical, heart-stopping beauty of a star field that no navigation would ever use. Each time, the cold logic receded, frustrated. He awoke to find Vance sitting by his cot. She looked older. The strain was etching permanent lines. "The manifold is installed. The scrubber is running. We bought time," she said, her voice soft. Jax said a word. Rook turned his head, a spike of pain lancing through his temple. "What word?" "Why?" A single word. The foundational question of consciousness. Not a statement of the pattern, but a question born from its corruption, from the noisy anomaly Rook had planted. "And Leah?" "She hums 2 notes now, sometimes 3. It's almost a melody. A sad one. Progress. At a cost." Rook could feel the changes in himself. His perception was now a permanent open channel. He could feel the emotional state of the outpost like a weather system. Carr's fearful determination, a low-pressure front. The collective anxiety, a thin, toxic mist. The stubborn sparks of care and camaraderie like distant warm lights. He was becoming more than the rememberer. He was becoming the sensor, for better or worse. "The sphere is still confused," he croaked. "But confusion is a temporary state for a learning system. It will adapt. It will try new methods to resolve the anomaly of us." Vance nodded, placing a cool hand on his fevered brow. It was a simple, human gesture. Noise. Then we keep being confusing. We keep being the problem it can't solve. Rook looked past her to where Jax and Leah lay in the common area, the focus of their fragile, defiant society. The pattern was in them. It was in him. The infection wasn't a physical thing to be quarantined. It was an idea, a question, and it was now woven into the fabric of their survival. They couldn't defeat it. They couldn't hide from it. They had to live with it. And they had to make that living so loud, so messy, so gloriously and painfully human, that the universe's cold, simplifying logic would finally throw up its hands and log them as a permanent, irreducible error. The cost of a yawp was to become the yawp itself, to burn your sanity as fuel for a song in the dark. Rook closed his eyes. The fever hummed. The pattern calculated. And deep beneath the rock, the sphere waited, its next query already forming in the silent mathematics of the void. They had bought time, but the examination was just beginning.